Meantime, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent calling out California Governor Gavin Newsom after the Democrat suggested his state should stop paying taxes to the federal government after an argument over the trans athlete debate. Bessent writing, quote, instead of committing criminal tax evasion, Governor Newsom should consider a tax plan for California that follows the Trump tax cuts model and reduces the onerous state tax burden to allow families to keep more of their hard-earned money. Political commentator Camryn Kinsey joins me now. Camryn, great to have you on the program. Should Newsom's threat to commit tax evasion in support of boys and girls sports really come as any surprise in light of his apparent acceptance this weekend over rioters breaking a whole host of laws right under his nose?
Yeah, well, thank you so much for having me on. And no, it comes as no shock. And Secretary Bessent is right to call this a threat to commit tax evasion because this isn't Governor Newsom's money to withhold in the first place. This threat would ultimately leave hardworking taxpayers in California on the hook. But let's call this what it is. It's grandstanding. Newsom is using this moment to posture himself for national attention. There was actually a UC Berkeley poll recently that showed 54% of Californians believe Newsom is more focused on running for president than he is actually running his own state. But on top of that, he's not even consistent. He told Charlie Kirk in an interview that it was completely unfair for a biological male to be in a woman's locker room. So which is it, Governor? You can't have it both ways.
Yeah, that's where I'm confused, Camryn, because amid all this talk of Gavin Newsom pivoting to the center in preparation for this presidential run, how do you explain this latest stance on siding with biological males after all that hullabaloo following the Charlie Kirk interview where he said that exact thing was unfair? And now you have rioters this weekend taking over Los Angeles. And, you know, you think that if you wanted to pivot to the center, you'd be all for law and order, whereas Gavin Newsom right now seems like he's willing to allow this recklessness and this lawlessness to just take hold in his biggest city. It doesn't make sense, Camryn.
Exactly. This is a losing battle for Gavin Newsom, both fiscally and politically. Legally, this threat would trigger a major court fight for him, put California workers and payroll officials in serious jeopardy. But politically, he's picking the wrong side of an issue that most Americans actually agree upon, which is protecting women's spaces. I'm a former D1 athlete. I remember the discipline and the sacrifice that it took to compete at that level. And every female athlete deserves the chance to compete on a level playing field and to have their own secure locker room. And the fact that Newsom is willing to break federal law to push a radical gender agenda is not only reckless, it's incredibly dangerous, and he should absolutely be held accountable for it.
Speaking of athletes, there were a couple athletes fighting it out over this weekend. The feud between Riley Gaines and Simone Biles has taken a turn after Gaines resurfaced an old tweet from Simone Biles that says that basically undermines the Olympians' stance on biological men competing in women's sports. Here's what Biles wrote in 2017. Good thing guys don't compete against girls, or he'd take all the gold medals. This, of course, after Biles called Gaines a truly sick bully after Gaines criticized Minnesota for allowing a trans male to win a girls' softball championship. Why do you think Biles, I don't know, bent to the woke mob over this over the intervening 8 years?
Well, Simone Biles has never had to compete against biological males. She never lost a medal. She never lost a scholarship or a safe space because of this issue. So she assumes that it's not a problem, but it is. It's happening all across the country, like you noted. In Minnesota, a biological male just pitched a shutout to win a girls' softball state title. California, male athletes dominating girls' track and field. In Texas, a men's wrestler took home 2 girls' state championships. So thousands of young girls and women across the country are being pushed aside to make room for men and women's sports. And like you noted, back in 2017, she even joked that if guys competed against girls, they'd take home the medal. So she knew then what everybody knows now. It's that men have a biological advantage. But now in 2025, she's willing to ignore that to virtue signal. So either she's forgotten what she said or she decided that it's politically safer to fall in line. But either way, it's hypocritical, and Riley Gaines has every single right to point this out.
Yeah, it's certainly a curious choice in light of everything that Simone Biles did that was unbelievably spectacular in her field of gymnastics. It's sad to see this happen over the course of this weekend, but it did, and we have to leave it there. Camryn, Kinsey, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
I'm Steve Ducey.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
And I'm Ainsley Earhart. And click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis.